Are we going live now on YouTube? Okay. In attendance is myself, David Gerstenhaber, Chairman, Vice Chair, Donna D., Supervisors Johnson and Dowling. Also in attendance are Township. Okay. All right. Also in attendance are Township Controller and Office Manager Melissa Ortega, Township Secretary Sarah Patent, and there are 7 members or so of the public. All right, so let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's better.
Okay. So now let's move to our public comment. Public comment may include any comments relating to tonight's agenda items.
With liberty for all.
Commenters must state your name and whether you are a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Do we have any public comment? Okay, not hearing any public comment. We'll move on. Donna?
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to make a motion that the board approve the September 2022 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes from September 21st, 2022. Can I have a second for that, please?
Second.
All right, so Jim wants a second. Any discussion? Any questions? Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Aye.
Great. So the motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Okay, Melissa.
I guess I'm up next. The September 22 Treasurer's Report includes the following disbursements. The General Fund with disbursements and transfers of $64,503.78. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $7,448.76. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $5,857.19. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $0. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $59,536.15. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $0, leaving the balance in all funds totaling $2,124,210.24.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. So I'll make a motion that the board approve the September 2022 Treasurer's Report as presented by Melissa Ortega. May I have a second?
A second.
Okay, Jim. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0. I'll just take the next one. All right, so now we'll move on to the zoning officer's report. Thank you, Melissa. This report is prepared by the zoning and code enforcement officer. It includes the numbers of permits processed, the number of inspections performed, and funds received in the month of September 2022. In the month of September 2022, 6 permits were issued, $3,870.35 in building fees, $1,450 in miscellaneous fees, and $0 in recreation, open space, and impact fees were collected, and 21 inspections were performed. No motion is required. Okay, Don?
I'd like to say that the HARB did not have a meeting in September, so there's nothing to really discuss for that.
Okay.
I would like to make a quick report if I might.
You
Sure.
may.
While we did not meet, I did want to bring to the attention of the supervisors in the township the fact that we will be co-sponsoring a talk with the New London Area Historical Society on Thursday, November 10th. The talk will be given by David hoarder who has been collecting Chester County memorabilia for 3 decades. He now has a museum in his home in Elkton, Maryland, and has donated items to the Red Rose Museum in Penn Township, and is working with Scott Steele to create a museum in West Grove, and he'll be talking on collecting and preserving local history. And I think this should be an interesting talk, especially if somebody is themselves interested in beginning to collect items relating to local history. And the one other thing that I would like to bring to the attention of the supervisors is that back in the early part of this year, I think sort of February, March, we began a process that was going to lead to the clarification of some of the language in the ordinance that created the historic district. This had to do mostly with buildings and structures. And a proposal had been drawn up, and it was put on hold. And I'd just like to encourage the supervisors to have the issue taken up again by the Planning Commission, just so we can remove these ambiguities going forward.
Paul, I'm not sure if we know this off the top, but is there do you know what the ordinance title is that we're going to refer to it?
I believe it's chapter 12.
Okay.
It's the historic district chapter. And so when the ordinance was originally adopted, my guess is that it was an attempt to adapt something else. And so there was some inconsistency when referring to buildings, whether they're buildings and structures and that sort of thing. And the township zoning officer at the time had raised some questions about ambiguity resulting from this inconsistency. And so while there were a couple other things that we attempted to clarify when we brought this to the attention of the supervisors back at the beginning of the year, most of this is really focused on just trying to standardize the language. I believe at the time it was decided that this should go to the Planning Commission. And, I have all the documents from that point. So if there's any need to recover these documents, I can certainly provide them. I had talked about this at the last Planning Commission as well. I just like this, now that there aren't, as far as I know, other pressing issues, I kind of like to get this cleaned up a bit.
So Paul, is it with the PC now or?
No, it's not. So what
So we need to
happened,
initiate that, okay.
what happened was, if I recall correctly, initially the changes were seen as minor, and it was decided that it could go straight to an ordinance. And then out of an abundance of caution, it was decided that it would be best to at least send this to the PC for review before the supervisors enacted anything. And so this happened kind of in the middle of wrapping up all the stuff for the comprehensive plan, and there have been some other major things that have needed the attention of the Planning Commission in the intervening time as well. And I'm willing to grant this is minor, but it's an easily fixable thing that I would hope we could attend to as soon as it's feasible.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it's an action for Jeff to make sure that, that's, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
Paul, I'm sorry.
So is this an opportunity to strengthen the language of the ordinance? Right, or is it
Actually,
just-
that's a totally different issue if you wish to do that. What I was trying to handle was clarification. And so, which is why I think that at least what I'm talking about right now is going to be a light task for everyone involved.
Would this be an opportunity then to just, since we're putting it in front of the PC anyway, to take a look at the ordinance and see if there's an opportunity to maybe strengthen some of the language?
Yeah, I suppose that wouldn't hurt. I mean, we've obviously seen, we've got some difficulties with our ability to make sure that the historic district is protected so that one property owner doesn't damage the values of other property owners. So I do think it is a good idea, but that was not my purpose in bringing this up.
Okay. Well, right, it's okay.
You know, I'm you know, like I said, when we were dealing with this at the time, I was primarily interested in making sure that the ambiguities were removed, the language was consistent. And so it was more just going back through things and making sure that whenever we're talking about buildings, that we consistently referred to buildings and structures so that there would be no ambiguity.
Paul, I've been able to catch up on a lot of work this past week, so I had sent you an email late this afternoon. I'm hoping you and I can talk tomorrow,
Okay.
and then we can put a package together for the planning commission, which is not a problem. I want your input with it.
Okay, I just sort of I appreciate that, Jeff. I have just one caveat. I'm actually going to beg out of this meeting after I'm done talking because I'm feeling a little under the weather. So maybe we should talk by phone.
That's fine. Whatever's
To
easiest.
get anybody else sick if indeed I'm coming down with something that's more significant than a little head cold.
So I need 15 seconds more of your time. Just can you put in a plug for a historical talk? Just can you restate the name and the
Sure.
date and location so people know?
Sure. This is Collecting and Preserving Local History. It's a talk by David Porter, who grew up in the area, has long family connections to New London Township, and now lives in Elkton. And it will be on Thursday, November 10th. And the time is at 7 p.m. And the location is, as it is with all of these jointly sponsored talks, at the New London Township building, the New London Academy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, and I'll be posting stuff on a variety of Facebook groups probably tomorrow. The flyer is ready to go.
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, I wish you all the best, and I hope you have a nice evening.
All right, hope you feel better, Paul.
Thanks.
See you, Paul.
So you're up.
Oh. It's, I don't have that actually.
Just an FSA.
Yeah, I thought this was Jim German, not Jim Johnston.
Oh, you can just announce Jim. Is Jim on?
Jim, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hey, Jim.
All right, Jim. Please give the.
Evening. Not a lot to report this month. Membership's unchanged with the FSA, and we have 35 members, and 15 of them are township residents. And we do have a waiting list to go on from year to year. And what we do with that waiting list is prioritize Franklin Township residents first among anybody from outside the township. So I know that the list is a couple bodies this year, 4 or 5 that are on the list, but we'll see how that progresses. From a hunting season standpoint, we're right dead in the middle of archery season right now, both within the township and across the state. And that season will close towards the end of November. Additionally, you may hear shots out and around outside of the parcels this week because the early flintlock season is, flintlock season is in, and also senior hunting and junior hunting. So if you get complaints at the township office that they're hearing a lot of shots, like I said, outside of the parcels and around the township, that's what's going on right now, in addition to general small game season across the state. So archery, like I said, closes November 25th. The gunning season across Pennsylvania opens November 27th. and closes December 11th. And then again, the late archery and shotgun seasons start the December 26th and close January 28th. All the parcels are up to date with trailhead signs, boundary signs, safety zones within them. I finished Franklin a couple days before the season started back in September, so everything's up to date there. I just looked at the harvest report again a little bit ago, and to date, there hasn't been any deer harvested. I think it contributed to that is a very warm September into November, and then we had some rainy spells. So we're getting some hunters out there, but not a lot of pressure on the woods right now.
They're all in my backyard, Jim.
No, they're in my backyard. They're like,
Yeah.
You can stand on my roof.
Yeah, I know a little public service down the bottom there. I have, the fall rut for the deer. The mating season is kicking off with this crisp weather out there and the drop in temperatures. So beware. I know I came across Broad Run on the Good Hope the other night, and there was a car in front of me, and through that stretch, the car in front of me had to slam the brakes 3 times because deer ran across the road in front of them. So yeah, they're out there hot and heavy, and we're probably going to see a lot more hit along the shoulders of the road through the township because of the rut kicking up right now. From a community service standpoint, not a lot was done over the last month other than the grass and entrance over at Banishire was mowed, and I know some of the members assisted with the Crossing Park tree planting. To date, since July, we've contributed 53 hours of service to the township. And like I said, other shots because muzzleloader and junior hunting, youth hunting is in place right now, so we might hear other shots in the fall rut. Just watch when you drive and where you drive, because they're out moving around. They're pretty crazy right now. And that's it for the FSA.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
all right, so I think that's, I'm going to go next. Okay, hi. I'm going to introduce, I hope Greg Sachs is on. I think, Greg, can you give a PRO report?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Greg.
Greg.
So our main focus the last month has been our tree planting. Happy to report that we got it pretty much all done. It was a total of 550 trees that we planted over 2 different sites at Crossing Park and Franklin Preserve. We had a total of about 40 to 50 volunteers. It was over multiple days. The hurricane weather kind of threw a big wrench in our schedule, so we had to kind of piece it together with the schedule, and it worked out well. I mean, it went a couple more days than we expected, but with all the volunteer support, we were able to get it done. So thank you everyone who was involved very much. There's no way we would have got it done without all the volunteers who were able to come out and to put in all the work. As far the Canada thistle at Goodwin Preserve, that was an issue that was brought up in the past by some neighboring properties. We did reach out to a couple companies to get that addressed, treated with an herbicide, with a spot treatment versus a general broadcast spraying over the entire field. They're going to get out there and just target the bad plants instead of wiping everything out. So we did get red tail restoration after talking to a few companies, and we gave them the green light. It was on the lower end of cost, so they should be at least targeting that. It's going to be an ongoing issue. It's not just like a once and done type thing like we talked about. So yeah, we've started the battle against the thistle over there.
So Greg, they did a spray? Did they do the first round?
Yeah, as far as I know, he's been out there. I reached out to him to confirm, but he hasn't gotten back to me. But we interacted and talked, and as far as I know, he should have already been out there and done a treatment. Next up
Right, that was
was,
just a Goodwin, right? Just Goodwin?
correct. Yeah, just Goodwin. Yeah.
Thank you.
And finally, we still have a vacancy on the pro board. We kind of have run out of our options, so we like the township to market this to the public, and hopefully we can, get somebody to fill this spot.
Okay. So this is something that we would advertise on Facebook, and where else would we put this? Township website. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
How many? Can you remind me how many members total are on the pro right now?
Total right now there's 6. We're missing the one. Which
We're missing
7.
8. Okay.
Seven.
Or 7. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So yeah, we're missing the one. So yeah. So that's all I had. Any questions for me or comments?
Well, Greg, I just wanted to have everybody know that there's 4 of us, at least 4 of us I know of that are going to the Meadow workshop. I know you're going to be out of town, but I know there's 4 of us going to that. Can you tell them a little bit more about that? I don't have it.
Yeah, let me, I thought about bringing that up, but I didn't. So yeah, there's a workshop that it's being put on by the Christiana Watershed Municipal Partnership. It's a lawn to meadow conversion workshop. So if you're interested in converting your grass to, a beautiful life supporting native meadow, it should be of interest. Topics include stormwater benefits, funding for the meadows, working with communities and weed ordinances, planning and care of the meadow, and long-term maintenance. It's not free to everybody, but to Franklin Township residents, it is, among other residents that I guess participated in the cost share program, the CWNP cost share program. So yeah, it's going to be held Tuesday, October 25th, 9 a.m. to noon. They're even providing lunch, and it's going to be at Shady Side Park in West Bradford Township. They do ask that you register. So like I said, there's no cost for the residents of the township, but they do want you to register. And there's a website that they provided for that. So I'm not sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just know the little gang of us that have been over at the park garden, the healing garden. I know Betsy's going, she's taking Lorraine, Mary's going, and I'm going. I know the 4 of us are going because we wanted to find out about the meadow, how to work on the meadow in the park. So if anybody else wanted to go, Don, I didn't have your information here while I was up here to get in touch with you or Nancy. If anybody else wanted to go, it seemed like a really interesting.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fascinating class. I'm bummed that I'm not going to be around for it, but I did reach out, and Shane said that they might record it for people who weren't able to attend. So I'm hoping they do, so I can actually still see what they got. Yeah.
Great. Well, we'll take copious notes for you.
All right, I appreciate it.
Greg, do you have the website handy that people can register, and then maybe we can put it up on the website if it's not already up on the website? If it's particularly since it's free.
I think it's on the Cross and Park website, and I think it's somewhere else on Facebook.
Okay.
How about the
I
West
did
Bradford
share it on
Township?
Facebook. It's kind of a long website, but I can read it to you if you want.
Well, we can post it on our website and post it on our Facebook page, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be the best way to do it. If it's particularly since it's free for Franklin Township residents, I know a lot of folks might be interested in it.
Right.
Just send it over. Just send it over to me in an email, Greg. I'm happy to do it.
Sounds good. I will send that to you tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Greg, I'll just add, it was a nice touch doing the drone footage of the planting.
That was
Yeah, that's,
beautiful.
you can thank Jeff for that. He was able to set that up, and yeah, I think that was beautiful and a good way to actually show the whole planting for sure.
Yeah, and I know we say this a lot of times, but I don't think we can say it enough. Paul Overton was amazing. I mean, the way he organized that and trained us, and he's just I just thank you. And Greg, I know you did a lot too. It's just amazing the people that we have, but he did a great job.
Yeah, I agree. Paul
Thank
is
you.
incredible in this project and other projects for sure. Thanks, guys.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Greg. Okay, Don.
Okay, I think it's time for me to introduce John Gottsart from the Planning Commission to go over some of the information they have.
No, oh, there's John. Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Main activities of the Planning Commission in October were review of the Richardson subdivision plan. The plan was presented a few months ago, and when it was presented, the plan did not seem to show the impervious cover that was shown on some of the geo survey maps, Google Maps, etc. So we asked the contractor to go back and to resurvey the impervious cover. And in fact, there was some more impervious cover on the plan that was resubmitted in September versus the one that was submitted a few years ago. So it looks as though some impervious cover was added to the plan, which has an impact on some of the stormwater regulations, which are coming down from the federal, state, county, and in our ordinances. After a discussion, we decided to, we made a motion to approve the plan conditionally and move that forward to the Board of Supervisors. And I think you probably have a copy of that here, but I'll read it to you if you like. We made a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they conditionally approve the final minor subdivision plan for properties known as lot numbers 2 and 3, Richardson subdivision plan, last reviewed September 6, 2022, with the following waivers and conditions, so the properties are in compliance with all federal, state, county, and local regulations. And the waivers that were asked for, and we tend to agree with, are the section 22-202, the definition of the minor subdivision plan, that should be waived. Section 22-502.11.2 and sections 22-727.1.b require monuments along the track boundaries and street right of way be waived. Section 22-502.1.1, parent 14, from requiring the location of all existing wells and storage areas within 100 feet of the property. The subdivision is really a boundary line movement, and we didn't feel that was required. Section 22-502.1-M, parent 1, from requiring contour lines being established by field survey. Again, it was a boundary line movement. Section 22-502.1-M, parent 5, the need for delineation of steep slope areas. Section 22-502.1.M, parent 5, requiring the need for wetland delineation. And section 22-722.1.1D, this section requires primary and replacement of sewage systems. Since there was no construction or of buildings or anything of that order, we didn't see that was required. The Planning Commission is really not recommending that the Board of Supervisors require the property owners to install sidewalks per section 22-210 and street lightings per section 22-711. We just didn't think it was appropriate in these cases. The conditions that we would require, though, are as followed. I mentioned that there's more impervious coverage now than was showed in the original plan that was presented, I think in August. And it approximates about a half an acre of coverage. So what we're looking to do and what we're recommending is that the owners of lot 2 and 3, in this case, lot 2 is owned by Wendy Richardson, and Wendy Richardson is also a part owner in lot 3. So she owns it, I believe, with her family members. So she has a interest in both lots. But we would think that the township has to work with the owners of lot 3 and the code enforcement officer to bring lot 3 into compliance with the federal, state, county, and municipal stormwater management regulations. Although it's a boundary line movement, the planning commission feels that the property should be in compliance before any changes are made to the plans. And we feel relatively strongly for that, and we're recommending that condition.
So Johnny, are you saying it's not in compliance now? Is that?
That's what we're saying. Jeff looked at what building permits were issued, and Jeff could not find any building permits that covered the addition of impervious area. I suspect what happened is when the millings were going on in 896, those trucks probably dropped some of those millings onto property number 3. And then that area was basically used as a parking area or whatever. But as a result, there's a lot more impervious area now than there was in the plans that were presented in the 90s. And the 2022 plan that was redone in September, that shows the actual coverage. And so there's definitely a lot more than a couple thousand square feet of coverage. And I think the township and the zoning compliance officer have to work with how do we get that thing back into compliance and get the permits appropriate for that property. Because effectively right now it's in violation with the federal, state, county, and our own regulations. So we think that that's important.
So the question that was raised is, during the PC, all of that seems reasonable. They're asking for a change in a lot line, and one of the properties is out of compliance.
Right.
And the PC had brought that forward and said, hey, we're recommending that we don't allow for this lot line change until the land is brought into compliance.
Correct.
Their representation then asked a question about the appropriateness of such a demand, and that he would reach out to Guy and talk to him about the appropriateness of such a condition. Did that happen? Do we have did this conversation take place?
Yes, we did have a discussion with Guy, and Guy thought it was appropriate for that to be a condition. I know when I did some boundary line movements in the past, they were just boundary line movements. There was no money exchanged. In those cases, I had to be in compliance with all the ordinances that were in existence. So at the time, my septic system was checked. The septic system of my neighbor was checked. So all the things were in compliance before the subdivision was allowed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how this is any different than what I went through about 10 years ago. It's basically, if you're going to do something, you should be in compliance with the regulations before you do things, I would think.
So Mr. Chairman, if I can just interrupt Mr. Gontars, the real issue is the timing of the remediation. I looked at the work that the Planning Commission had done, and the waivers relating to the sidewalks and things of that nature. And I agree with Mr. Gontars that that's probably for this sort of lot line change is unnecessary. But it really related to the timing of the remediation. When I advise an approval of an application, one of the standard provisions is that the properties will, in all other ways, be in compliance with any state, federal, or local regulations. It's almost I don't want to call it a throwaway, but it's almost boilerplate, because you want properties who seek approvals to be in compliance with your ordinances. Obviously, there's a half an acre or so of a parking lot there that nobody knew of until it was included on the revised plan. So my thought was, and I think your zoning ordinance allows for this because you can approve subdivisions conditionally, is just have them remove that stuff or do whatever it is they need to do to have it approved before the recordation of the subdivision plan. And we could always record the plan and then proceed with an enforcement action. But it was my thinking that why don't we just do it all in one fell swoop, so we don't have a lingering issue for your code enforcement folks, your management, and others. So that was my recommendation, and that's the reason I made it. Of course, we can talk to the property owner. Perhaps they're willing to make some concessions. Their lawyer is a reasonable fellow. There can be a dialogue on that, but that was my initial thinking.
So Guy, I guess I'm just confused. Maybe I'm not following something. So is there a timing thing? Like, why can't they just get this thing in line? Is there's a time to get the lot line done? Is there something pressing that they need to have it done now?
I asked that question. What's the, in fact, I said it a little differently. What's the rush? Is what I said. And I hope I'm not speaking out of ignorance. And if anybody knows this not to be the case, then correct me. But my understanding is that there may be improvements on one lot that sits on the boundary line, and that the owners appropriately want to make sure that those improvements are within lot 2. I was told it was a pool. I don't remember who told me that. All the pools I know of now are closed up, but I don't know what kind of pool it is or how it's used. And I respect the property owner's motivations for the lot line modification, kind of squaring it off a bit as far as the plan was concerned. But as far as a pressing need for the lot line, I understand it's because of a structure that now straddles the line, and I can be corrected on that.
So the recommendation now is then we're not going to approve a lot line change until the parcel 3 is brought back into compliance. Is that?
Well, I would say it a little differently. I would approve the lot line change.
Yeah.
And I would say the plan may not be recorded. So in effect, it has no effect until the issue of the half an acre of impervious is corrected either through remediation or through the securing of appropriate permits and best practice BMPs for the stormwater issues. But I'm sort of exhausting my knowledge of the engineering at this point. But I think it's more of a timing issue relating to the filing of the plan.
So practically, what does that do to make sure that the property gets put back into compliance?
If the property owners of 2 and 3, if Ms. Richardson and Ms. Richardson's family want the subdivision to be effective, they will take whatever actions are necessary to remediate that issue. The only other way is a notice of violation and proceeding with some enforcement action, which in my view doesn't seem to warrant that sort of of township action. It should be more cooperative in my view.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I guess I'm confused as to what putting there's no enforcement action. We say we approve the lot line change. We're not going to record it.
Why
And
not just not approve it?
why not? What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that
What's the
mean?
difference between doing that and not approving the lot line change?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, and I will be again corrected on timing, but you've got an application. That application needs to be decided in a
Oh, I see.
particular period of time, because I don't want us to be faced with a deemed approval for a lack of action, number one. Number two, I think the plan, and Mr. Gontars will of course correct me, but I think the planning commission is saying, yeah, we're okay with this. We don't need to look at it again. You can approve the application, but just don't record the plan until these millings are removed. And then it's off your desk. It's gone through the process, and the only thing that Mr. Eastburn has to worry about is some confirmation from his code enforcement folks that the materials have been removed or that the appropriate permits have been issued for its existence on the property. But it takes it off of your agenda.
Oh, I understand.
And do we know if the permits are just township permits or it has to be county as well?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it that deeply.
That would be the determination of the zoning and code enforcement officer.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's an approval conditional with conditions. Is basically what it
Approval
is.
with conditions, and if you approve it, you just can't allow it to be recorded until the remediation has been made.
Now, just to add something tonight, if I may, please. The applicant did not want this on the agenda tonight, so it is not on the board agenda for a conditional approval. We have until November 16th, which is when the time clock runs out, and then we've got to make a decision, yay or nay. Both Wendy and her solicitor were at the planning commission meeting, and I also forwarded that information to Ken Crossan. So they're all very well aware of where they stand right now.
So I'm now confused again.
Yeah, why
So why would they not want us to consider this? Like, what's the other option? Like, so like we're ready to just get this done tonight.
That's how I like to do things too. I asked the applicant if they wanted to be on tonight with the motion from the planning commission, and I was told no by Wendy. I have it in.
So Jeff, let me answer let me just address this because the chairman may not be aware of this communication. I received an email from the applicant's lawyer, who I know, who I've dealt with, and is a very reasonable guy. And he said, hey, listen, we've looked at the planning commission's recommendation. Can you remove the condition that the plan is not recorded until remediation or approval of the impervious is achieved? And this was later last week. And I said, let me reach out for my client and let's see if it's something we can talk through in time for the meeting on Wednesday. And it was my impression, and I think Mr. Eastburn is confirming this, that they would rather hold up the approval of this subdivision with that condition for a month and have an opportunity to discuss it a little bit further. And so that's the big part of the reason why we're not pushing ahead with it, because the applicant wants, I think, a little bit of time to address that condition with the township.
So they want to have another conversation with the township?
Correct.
Well, we meet now and we meet at workshop meetings.
Right.
So I'm not really sure when is that meeting going to happen? I mean, I'm
Well,
not trying
I
to be
think-
flipped here,
yeah.
but like we have two opportunities to have a conversation with her. This is one of them.
Right. And I think the conversation they wanted to have was with your management and your solicitor.
Okay.
Because it was my view, and I, as much as told Mr. Abernathy this, that I felt that that condition made sense. And I think he wants an opportunity to, I think he wants an opportunity to talk about it.
Okay.
And so he asked that it not be voted on tonight, because if it was voted on tonight, my response would be, the planning commission's recommendation for approval is compliant with your ordinances, and it makes sense too. So they didn't want that, because I don't think they like the condition.
Well, another factor involved with this is they've known that this situation existed as far back as August, because I think at that time, the township, who is it? My mind is someplace else, I'm sorry, but we pointed out to them that the Google Maps and the GeoSurvey maps seem to show more impervious area than their subdivision was showing. Now, since Wendy's an owner of both pieces, she would have known that, but that wasn't confirmed until after the last planning commission meeting, when everybody went out there and Mr. Cross and then redid the subdivision and showed the impervious area that was really there. So this has been going on, so they were aware of this since August, and between August and now, there's been no action to do anything about that impervious cover. So they knew that was going to be a problem going back at least a couple months. Okay.
I mean, I know we're not voting on it tonight, Guy, but I'll be very reluctant to give up any leverage in this conversation. They can talk to you, but they still got to get it past the board.
Oh, I don't think they feel that I'm a soft back door. I think, and again, a lot of this occurred last week when they saw the direction that the planning commission was taking. I don't think they particularly cared for the result. And following up on Jeff's observation, that's when they indicated, well, let's not, maybe we'd rather have no decision, quite frankly, than a decision with that condition, because then they have an appellate clock running and all sorts of issues that remain undiscussed. I don't know why you following up on Mr. Gontar's, August, September, October, the weather's been nice. I don't know why you wouldn't have taken care of it if there was a will to take care of it. And I think that's where Mr. Gontar's was going. So I'm not going to move off my my advice to the planning commission and to the township, but out of respect for another attorney who wanted some time to discuss it, and I think Jeff's respect for the property owners, we're where we are tonight.
You know, I mean, I think we're not in any rush.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on them. If they want to drag it out, it's on them. I guess my concern was you made a comment about ensuring that we make a decision in a timely fashion. You know, do we have a clock that we must come to a decision? Because if it's
gonna be no.
If it's, well, right. I mean, we'll sign it and with the condition, with or without them in the room. That's my primary concern. It isn't,
Right.
We have all the time in the world to deal with this. So.
Right. Yes. I take.
Are we
the
able to
position-
do that, Guy? I'm sorry. Are we able to do that in a workshop?
Yeah.
Well, only if it's advertised. I'm unfamiliar with the way you've advertised your workshop, but if your workshop is advertised as a voting meeting, you can do it at a workshop. How are your workshops advertised?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's advertised the same way we advertise a board of supervisors meeting.
It's an open meeting. It's on the website.
Yeah.
But the time clock runs out November 16th, which is the next Board of Supervisors meeting. So I feel by then we're going to have a clear indication. Either we're going to approve it with a condition or deny it. right, Guy? I mean, there's really,
That's right, unless the applicant wants to relieve the township of its deadlines. That happens occasionally, more than occasionally.
and they could offer another extension letter.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's the primary concern, is that we don't get forced, our hand isn't forced because we bump up against the deadline.
How did they get notified of that? Event? Like who would notify that?
How do they get
How do
notified?
they get notified that, the 16th right now is the deadline? They know that, but that they can do an extension. Would that be you telling them? Okay. Okay. So Jeff will get a hold of them. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Guy.
Thank you, John.
John, do we have anything else we want to touch on?
There were a number of other little things discussed, but nothing of importance. This was the most significant part. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Have a good evening.
And so, I guess I will introduce, is Ron Reagan on the call? Has he joined us?
He is not yet. I had mentioned about 8:30. I can either go through it or we can wait for him. It's the chairman's pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, we are, the next two items are stormwater and road paving. So in the roadside mowing. So why don't we go to the roadside mowing first? See where we are. And then if Ron's not on, we'll just move forward. Okay.
Okay, not a problem. Just a brief discussion about the interim road maintenance bid that we need to award by the end of the year. Both Ron and I will be working on that to see if there are ways that we can improve it. And one of the suggestions that Ron had was if we could combine the roadside mowing bid with what I call the road maintenance and repair bid, which would be like culvert pipes and stop signs and ditching the road and that sort of stuff. So Ron and I agree with him. It just seems to make sense. It's heavy machinery. It's one less bid to advertise, but it's whatever the board would like. I wanted to get your input on it before we started work on it.
What's the advantage of putting them together versus, I guess I would see keeping them apart. You could probably get more people, right? Because of different machinery for.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of people bid.
Okay.
So again, we thought just combining it might help with that. And again, just one less bid. We could do either or. It's whatever the board likes.
So you think you'll get more people bidding if you don't know?
I can't tell you that factually.
Because it sounds like it's two different things. I mean, I'm not an expert like you are, but mowing the road or the grass by the road is different from maintaining it, right? Doing trenches and.
Normally, guys that do that type of work have the tractors and do have access to what I call the road bank mowers. But again, I'm not pushing one way or the other. This was a suggestion for Ron and it kind of made sense to me. So I just wanted to bring it up.
Jeff, couldn't we do both? Bid together or separate and see what we get?
You mean do it as alternates?
I think the suggestion is we have a combined bid and then we have a separation.
And we see what we get in and.
No, that's a good idea, Guy, with what you said. Thank you for saying that.
But Jim said it, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Guy said about the alternate. Having his
Okay,
alternates.
so it's like you put it together, okay.
Yeah.
If the board's okay with that, we'll pursue that path.
Because we don't know, right? Nobody, and you just
Yeah.
want to have bids, right, that you can pick from,
That's it.
right? So you have a choice.
So what are we suggesting? We're suggesting that we put out a request for bids with a combined package of maintenance, repairs, and mowing. And then also put out for bid maintenance and repairs and roadside mowing separately? Was that what you're suggesting?
If Guy can help me with this, I believe what he's suggesting and what we can do is we can have two separate areas in one bid package and not have the requirement that a contractor bid on both.
Gotcha.
Have it as an alternate. Would that be correct, Guy?
Yeah, and I'm just thinking through some trash bids that I've been associated with where they've bid the entire municipal waste and recycling contract. And then as an alternate, they ask the bidders to break them up into the municipal waste and recycling. And sometimes you get a little bit more of a robust bidding environment because folks will come in and see what they can do. My experience has not been with road work or lawn maintenance. It's been with something a little bit different, but the concept is the same.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. So if someone could come in, take the look at the whole bid instead of saying, I can't do all of it. I just want to do the mowing. Here's the mowing. Here's my mowing.
Yes, correct.
All right, I got it. Perfect. I like that idea.
Perfect.
Or someone else can come in and say, I'll look at the whole
I'll
thing.
do it all.
and
Great.
give you- And give you a number, and then you can figure it out.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Good idea, Jim.
Yeah, there you go. Gold star for Jim today. All right, so I guess maybe we should just roll on. I would like to hear from Ron. Maybe we move on to some business and then when Ron gets in.
Sure. I would anticipate Ron by about 8:30.
Okay. Yeah, because he's done some good work over the last couple of months. I would
Yes.
like to have him an opportunity to talk about it. So,
Yes.
all right, so we're going to postpone our discussion on the stormwater management projects and the road paving projects until he is available to join us. So we'll move on to business. And I'd like to introduce Jessica Adams of LTL Consultants and Township Solicitor Guy Donatelli to discuss our Act 167 ordinance.
Okay, good evening. Gonna kind of just give her like a really brief overview, I think, of where we are, and then I believe a topic of discussion that Donna brought up, and also I had brought attention to just a few days ago to Jeff and the board. And Guy's familiar with it as well. He participated in some meetings regarding it. But generally speaking, we had a workshop earlier in the month and had discussed the changes to the ordinance. I had forwarded, as requested, some versions of the ordinance with track changes and updates, et cetera, just for your reference and review. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to fully digest those very interesting ordinances. So we can, if anybody has any questions regarding that. I know, Donna, you had some comments, so I'll circle back to that in a second. One of the topics of concern, or not concern necessarily, but just information I want to give you as far as the timeline is concerned for approving the Act 167 updated ordinance is just understand the county, the way this works, to reiterate, the county adopted and approved the model ordinance at the county level back in August. Since that time, it's been resubmitted to DEP for their final blessing and approval. So there, at this point, there won't be any changes to it. That's just a final formality. But it does allow for the townships to go ahead and adopt the ordinance should they so choose to. As far as timing is concerned, there's two deadlines, so to speak. One is for MS4 permittees, which at this point in time, Franklin Township is not yet working on it, but not formally issued a permit for MS4. That adoption deadline was September 30th. I can tell you that not all municipalities have followed, by the book necessarily, only because the timing from the county level of adopting it was just in August. So, there's a lot of municipalities that are at the same stage we are in approving this. Aside from that, though, a township or a municipality that is not an MS4 permittee currently will have 6 months to adopt the ordinance from the time that DEP does their formal approval of it. Of course, we're still waiting for DEP to formally approve the county's version of the ordinance. So, you know, you've got some time on your side, so to speak, is really what it comes down to. With that said, again, I think we're at like a 95% completion at this point. The only outstanding things really are some peripherals as far as, you know, application fees, if the township wants to consider any changes, some tweaks maybe to an O&M agreement. Again, there's templates there. And, you know, again, the township's philosophy, as my understanding is that we're really not changing a whole lot. We like what the township likes, what they have, and it works for them. I'll call it my breaking news topic. Just recently, this is, I'll give just a very brief history, if you want to call it that. Question came up and has been brought to our attention a few times recently from consultants submitting plans to the township as far as review of an E&S plan. And our understanding up until now has always been that the conservation district should be the one reviewing an E&S plan, like in its entirety at any point in time. But it did bring up some questions and pointed out some ambiguities a little bit in the current model ordinance. So we had a meeting with the conservation district. Guy was part of that, or yes, sorry, apologize. No, he wasn't. I'm mixing up my townships. There's his firm is also a solicitor for another township that we work with. So we did have representation from his office, which was helpful. But really, to summarize, the concern was reviewing NES plans for more of these simplified projects where you have an area of disturbance that's greater than 5,000 square feet and less than 1 acre. And what that means is a project like that does not require an erosion control permit, but it is required to be reviewed either by the municipality or the conservation district. And right now the language in the Act 167 doesn't really clearly define that. It certainly states that projects over 1 acre require a permit from the conservation district. And it says that if the township requires a review otherwise, then they can do that. We are proposing at this point that the township do require an E&S plan review by the conservation district instead of, I'll say, LTL doing that review. It seems to us, and I think that Guy is in agreement that, let's let the agency that has the expertise in that realm do the reviewing of these plans, number one and foremost. Number two, I think that from an administrative side, it does create a little more tracking on behalf of the township, be it an application fee to now do an E&S plan review that wasn't, part of the whole process previously. And then again, tracking, what reviews have come in, who's paid their fees, and then separate inspection times, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. That's not something, well, actually, it's not something that was included in the ordinance specifically, but to Donna, to your point, I do recall, and thank you for pointing it out. I had actually added a little sentence in the one section of the ordinance stating that E&S plan review would be required for, greater than 5,000 square feet of disturbance. So since that time and since the meeting we had with the conservation district, I did forward just kind of an example, or not an example, but what the ordinance states now, and then proposed language that could be added to the ordinance to clarify which agency, I'll say, is responsible for doing an E&S plan review, and that it is required by the township.
So just, so Jessica, so that explains why that section's in the proposed ordinance that wasn't in Franklin Township's original ordinance or in the the mandatory language, and so that helps. But I guess my question is to you, if we have the, Chester County, the district do it, is it going to hold things up? Do they get things done fast, the CCD, or does it, because that's the other part, maybe, I mean, the other side of it,
Sure, understood. No, they typically, I mean, their review time for small projects like that is 30 days. And, in my experience, that's usually that happens very quickly. These are small projects. They do review them frequently. We're certainly obviously not the only municipality requesting those reviews or to be done, or that, it's required that we get an adequacy letter from the conservation district. So yeah, that's certainly within reason. It's not going to hold anything up on a small project like that.
right. And I think that your overarching principle is that the district has the experience, and that's why it makes sense for them to do it, even if it's a small project.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I don't know, if the board is, if you have any more discussion about it, if you're okay with us adding that language in, then, I'll incorporate that into, obviously, the current draft that we have.
I think it's already there. So at least it was
Right,
the
yes.
draft. Yeah, so it's already it's in the project.
Yeah.
So, okay. So do you want comments from us now? Because I do have, that was my big comment, that this from a content. So let me just explain to the board what I did, because it's just what I do. I can't help who I am. So what I did, and Jessica, thank you so much for all the documentation you sent us. I was able to take the mandatory language that the state has agreed to, that we said that the DEP is looking at. So I looked at that document, and then I was able to look at the current Franklin Township ordinance. And so that you gave us that. And it was very clear that what Jessica and LTL and hopefully a PC was about was they took the state, the new ordinance that the county has put together, and they added into it anything that was in the old Franklin Township ordinance that they decided that they want to keep. So we actually have a few sections in the state proposed ordinance that's in addition to what has to be there, because I think it worked for us before. So that's what's in the document. And then, as I said, you can actually go line by line and see that we're not doing anything. We're just following what the state has, and most of it is mandatory language. So I thought that was good. That gave me a lot of comfort. And I think that the key for me, and Jessica, I'm no expert, is this table, right? This table 1061 that is in the book. And the thing that when I looked at 1061, it's exactly, it was my opinion, exactly the same as what was in the old Franklin Township ordinance. So we can keep it. So there's nothing about this that's making it harder for our residents. We kept that table from the old ordinance. Just one, and this is one of the comments I hope you picked up on, Jessica, is that we have to change one of the words in the headers. We currently have proposed impervious surfaces. The county wants us to use this word regulated. So you just have to change that. But I just want to give residents and the board comfort that that table is the exact table that's in our current ordinance. So we're not, and it allows for for that, simple approach. So that gave me a lot of comfort. And then besides that, I just noticed two other formatting issues that I wanted to bring to your attention. But they're not content issues. There's in section 202 under definitions. There's under the definition for BMP, there's a word that has to be there. It's mandated. We don't have it in our definition of the proposed. So you just have to put that in there. It's the word. And then municipality, same definition section. I just would add it. I feel like Paul Lagasse. I just need to get a space in there because it's just all smushed together. So, just add that. And then in section 402C, I'm sorry, section 706, we had subsections A, D, and E. The formatting under it should be numbers, not letters, to be consistent with the rest of the document. So like, yeah, but so you're not going to have any more pushback from me. I think it's as good as it's going to get based on what we have to do. And based on the fact that the PC and LTL try to keep it as much in line with what the state wants and with our old ordinance as possible. So I'm done.
Okay.
Great. Guy, is there anything that I may have missed that you need to double back
No.
on or
No,
add?
that was very comprehensive. I will add that I sat down early this afternoon with my partner with whom Jessica has worked in the interest of another fairly nearby township. We went through it together. It's all, in my view, it's all good. It's a good ordinance. I think it's in great shape. It's funny, I went through all the definitions myself, and I'm embarrassed to say I missed what Donna noted. So
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Good job,
but the definitions are important, and it's one of the things that Jessica and I spoke about. It's all good. I think I made the comment when she and I were speaking that I don't want perfect to be the enemy of good, and your comment that this is about as good as it's going to get, I think is right on the mark. It complies with all the legal requirements, and I endorse the additional language that Jessica has put in it.
All right. Excellent.
Don, do you have any comments before we move on?
I am thrilled that we have Donna and Guy and Jessica to help us with this because I think they've come to a great conclusion.
Jim?
I'm fine.
Okay, thanks. So we don't have a motion on here. Is there a motion? What is the next steps for this?
That's something we discussed this morning. I would reckon we'd advertise it.
Okay.
Okay. And then when your folks want to put it on the agenda, we could probably do it by your next meeting, but that's the next step, is to advertise the ordinance and then.
Yeah. All right, so we will advertise the ordinance that we'll be voting to accept the ordinance, approve the ordinance at the next November meeting. That's the action. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Advertise. Okay. So I don't think Guy and Jessica are going anywhere next because we're going to move on to MS4. PennDOT. I just stole your thunder. I apologize.
Oh, is that, no, that's good.
So so we have the next topic is our MS4 and PennDOT discussion. This was this this cooperative that PennDOT came to us with, where my simplistic view is we pay to become members of this consortium, and then in return we get MS4 credits, and that's pretty much it. It seems like a quid pro quo kind of relationship. So I guess then the question was, is this too good to be true? Is this something that we need to think hard about, or should we proceed and join this cooperative? So I'll hand that over to.
Can I just make a comment? So Guy, I know we're going to hand it over to you, but as I was going through the work that you reviewed, the one thing that stuck in my head was that in the maintenance agreement, it doesn't read the way PennDOT had explained it to us before. And there seems to be like a loophole that they're counting on, and I'm sure you'll tell us about this, is if the project is in your municipality, then the municipality is responsible for the maintenance. The PennDOT guy never said that. But, and I understand that this would not be in our municipality, but I can't help but ask myself, well, then what happens if the municipality that's supposed to take care of it doesn't? And then who's responsible? So I come from the, I'm with you, like, is it just like a game that we're buying like carbon credits and maybe I shouldn't think about it too hard. But on the other hand, it still sounds a little fishy. So I'll hand it over to you and I'm sure you'll address this.
Sure, yeah. So I loaded up a couple of documents on my desktop that I'm going to try to share when it's appropriate, but I want to bring everybody back to the conversation we had with Mr. St. Clair. And I think everybody who participated in that meeting and who had the opportunity to hear him and ask him questions, and this is my language, came away with the impression that the contribution agreement between PennDOT and the township would be one in which once the township contributed its money, they're basically off the hook. They basically don't have anything more to do, and that they will get credit for that number of pounds that are eliminated by the project, capital P project, and that if there's any issue, all they need to do is pick up the phone and call PennDOT, and PennDOT will take care of it. And so after the meeting, I reached out for Mr. St. Clair, who was absolutely cooperative, and he sent me a series of documents, and I looked at those documents. They were documents that were drafted for a township in Dauphin County, Swatara Township. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I read through it, and it didn't have that crystal clear language that said, you're not responsible for anything after you pay this. What it had was language that could be construed as relieving maintenance obligations off of a township as long as the project was not within their municipal boundaries. But it didn't come right out and say that. It said it in a roundabout way. And so I looked at that, and that did cause me a little bit of concern, not because I'm afraid that PennDOT is misrepresenting itself to us, but that I like clear language. I like to be able to pick up a document, because words mean things, and say, here's what the language says, this is what I'm relying on. And so what I then looked at was the overarching document for Swatara, and in that case, the project was being performed within their municipal boundaries. So what I did was I took the contribution agreement and I redlined it a bit. And what I'm going to try to do, if Jeff, if you could give me share screen capability, I'm going to try to do that.
You should have it, sir.
All right. So now the only thing that is necessary is my my skills here. Let's see.
Where's the button?
The green button that says share, yeah.
Yeah, where's that button?
Let's see. I'm going to start with the contribution agreement.
Maybe I find the document.
Hey, Jeff, can you close the participants list?
Yes,
All right, let's try that again. I'm going to try this again.
Okay, we got something.
Minecraft.
Yeah, that's not what I want.
Umbrellas.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Take your time, we're not going anywhere.
Oh, screen. How many screens you got? That's always.
I got to close. I tell you, they told me close them all, and that's what I thought I had done.
you feel any better about this? Yeah, I don't have a good thing on that.
See what he
Yeah.
shows us.
Yes.
I don't feel good because I remember him saying explicitly that PennDOT would take care of all the
And
maintenance.
PennDOT's not responsible, so it would be anybody.
Well, we're gonna try this one more time. And I don't want you to see my umbrellas.
Where's Nancy at when we need her? She's a computer geek. Well, you're a computer geek too. You do computers all the time.
All right, you got it.
Is that it? Okay.
Just gotta make it bigger, I think.
You want me to make it bigger?
If you could.
All right.
You're gonna probably have to read it to us.
You just go to view, go up to view. To the right.
On the bottom.
There you go. And then you can zoom in.
Just down at the bottom.
Yeah, if you go to the
slide bar. at the
Oh,
bottom
yeah,
of the
yeah.
slide.
But lower right. Sorry, lower
There's a
right.
slide bar. Just, yeah, you got it.
There it is.
Yeah, okay. All right, good. All right.
How's
Okay.
how's that? Any
That's
better?
probably too big.
That's
All right,
large.
Oh,
That's
it's
good.
good.
That's good.
Perfect.
All right.
No, to the right. A little left.
Okay, so
Well, we were-
this
we-
this is the contribution agreement, which I turned into a Word document, and then went through it, making sure that the definitions made sense for us. And I think in this particular draft that he sent to us, he was talking about a project within the township's urbanized area. So what we need to do for our agreement is to clearly define the fact that this project that we're agreeing to, or that we're contributing towards, is not within our municipal boundaries, and for which the township will not be responsible for future maintenance. So the first time that I saw an anomaly with respect to this form that he forwarded to us was in the second paragraph of the background. So that's going to have to be modified. I also note that.
So Guy, but what happens if the people that the township that's supposed to be responsible for it don't do what they need to do? Does DEP come and say,
I think that's DEP's problem, because if crafted correctly, this contribution agreement would not make it your township's problem. But I don't like the
credit?
We'd still get the credits.
You'd still get the credits, but I don't like the way this document is crafted. And I think I did send my comments in writing to Mr. St. Clair. I haven't heard back from him. But, if they would modify some of this language a little bit, I wouldn't have as much concern. But I don't know what happens with the other township. Presumably, they have their own agreement with PennDOT for that particular portion of the project that's within their municipal boundaries, and that they are going to have maintenance obligations, future maintenance obligations with respect to that project.
so you, as much confidence as you can have, you have confidence that we would still get our credits?
Yes,
Because you're saying it's not our issue, it would be the other township's issue with PennDOT. I'm not with PennDOT,
Correct.
with DEP.
that's
Not
what I'm
ours.
saying.
Talking about the maintenance after the project was completed, right?
Yes.
The future maintenance.
Yeah,
Correct.
right.
Yeah, and so is there, and I guess what you're saying is there's the other piece that they're saying beyond PennDOT will take care of it is the contract for the firm that's actually doing the rehab. It is under contract to keep that river restoration whole for 5 years, and then there's some sort of time after that they have to keep it maintained. Right.
Correct.
So
And understand, Mr. Chairman, I'm just going through the language that was, this is not my product. I'm going through the language that was sent to me
Oh, yeah, I
at
understand.
my request, trying to indicate where I would want to make some
Yeah.
modifications so that these sorts of things, if everything were to change, if all personnel were no longer involved, they'd be able to read the words on the page and know what their obligations were and what they weren't.
I guess my question is, if the township, if there is an issue with the stream restoration and it was within our township, the language would imply it would be our responsibility to fix it.
Right.
Would it, but with their PennDOT's agreement with their contractor, would the language then mean it's up to us to hunt down this contractor to fix it?
Yes, I think if the project was defined as being performed within the boundaries of your township, you then have that responsibility.
Yeah, I think the key, it all depends how you look at it, but the key for us, we may not want to do this if it was in our township in a way, because I think we would be on the hook.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can rely on a contractor to have this as his number one issue for the next forever.
Right.
He may have it for 5 years, but after that, he may not even be around. The fact that it's not, this is so twisted, but the fact that it's not in our township may actually be an advantage to us, because Guy, you're going to try to rework this contract in a way that we're off the hook. Doesn't mean somebody else may be on the hook, but it won't be us, and
Right.
we'll still get our
It's
credit.
between them and PennDOT.
Or whoever.
So
Not
one
us.
of my questions for Mr. St. Clair is give me a clear definition of this project. Does it have a number? If it has a number, is it already in progress? Where is it? Is it the same one that Swatera is involved in? I mean, I don't know any of those those facts, but that would make a big difference to me, because there's a definitional section that defines project, but it doesn't help me with where that project is.
Well, he told us the last time he was here where the project was. He said, I mean, he made it clear. And I don't know if Jessica's still on, but he made it clear it wasn't in our township and that there was a defined project. I don't remember what he said, but he said a name. But you want to see it in writing, right?
I want to put it into for me, I want to put it into the document so that I could go to one place and say, well, I don't have to worry about this because it's in, a township in York or a township in Dalphine. It's not a township in Chester County.
Right. Yeah, I am still in the line. My understanding, just for clarification, is the project is in, I believe, East Nottingham Township. I do have some mapping that I can pass on to show where the actual project location is, but it's certainly best to get that from the PennDOT representative, for the purposes of the agreement, certainly. But just for the board, just for a visual of Chester County and surrounding townships, you can get a feel for where this project is. I'll forward that to you, over tomorrow.
Wasn't it affecting Big Elk Creek? I think I
Yes.
remember those words.
Big Elk Creek.
So as I go down this document, it has a definitional section, continues to talk about the contribution, and I just left that blank because I don't think there's been any, at least I haven't seen any commitment to a particular number. There have been some numbers discussed, but we want to make sure that those numbers were put in. PennDOT's contribution. Project when capitalized means the project in the watershed to reduce sediment pollution. Okay, what? When I was like, well, what is it? I don't know why you wouldn't. You're being known as project number X70445 in the following townships. I would think I would get some comfort from that, because then I would know anybody reading this would understand what has to happen in the future. Still a lot of blanks. Again, it's easy enough to figure out. Now you'll recall that he spoke to us a little bit about how we would pay for it. And this is a detail. And he basically said, listen, we don't want to get the checks anymore. We'd want you to make the payment in another way. And that's PennDOT's preference. But in an email that he sent to me, and he copied a host of others, he thinks it may still be possible for PennDOT to accept the check. Again, it's a detail, but it's something I would like to nail down so I know where the money's supposed to go. Again,
it's interesting. I mean, maybe it doesn't matter, but you know, this contractor's not doing work in the township, our township. I guess my thought is seems to be an effort with PennDOT. Why does the contractor get our check? Right? Like, why would the contractor get the check? Why wouldn't we just send it to PennDOT? Like, does the contractor also deal with the MS4 credits? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like this is an effort through PennDOT to kind of share the wealth, right? But in other ways, the opposite, which is to
Get their liability.
to reduce their liability. Why wouldn't we simply just pay them directly and then let them handle their relationship with the contractor? I mean, I don't think you have an answer. I mean, I'm not. It's just kind of maybe a rhetorical question, but that's one part of it where I'm not really clear.
Yeah, the way I understood it last month was that they didn't want to deal with the operational activity of collecting all the checks and paying the contractor.
Yeah.
But I don't know how difficult that would be I don't know how many of these projects are going on at the same time, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Here's my maintenance section.
so
This is my favorite section at the town.
yeah.
The township shall be responsible.
Well, let's break it down because you'll see some highlighted line. So, you know, he referred us specifically to the maintenance provision, and the words that are highlighted in yellow are mine. I added that sentence because the way it was described to us was that this language means that we would not be responsible for any future maintenance if the project was outside of our municipal boundaries. Well, you can read the first sentence of E. You can read that first sentence, but it doesn't confirm the negative. So what I did was,
That's right.
and it's simple enough, I just put it in there. The township shall not be responsible for enforcing long-term operation and maintenance of the improvements constructed by the project outside of the township's municipal boundaries. I don't see any reason why the Commonwealth would object to that language. It's possible they might, because it's just too clear. It's just right on the nose. So they may not want to see it. I say that, you know, tongue in cheek, but I've sent that language to Daryl, and I don't know if that's what it's meant to mean. Then we should say it that clearly.
mm-hmm.
So Guy, can we get caught up in the word maintenance? Because what if the whole thing blows up? So it's not a maintenance thing. It's that there's 100-year storm and all the work that was done is no longer there. It's gone. Someone could argue that's not maintenance. That's the thing blew up. Well, do we have, I mean, you have to put words in there to make sure we're done. Like we give you the check and we walk away. Like we're done.
Let me do this. I just don't recall whether maintenance was defined in the definitions. No. So, you know, if someone at PennDOT wanted to take the position that this is neither, well, what's long-term? I mean, we could take every word. What is enforcement? What is long-term? What is operation and maintenance of the improvements? I would say if I'm responsible for maintaining a sewer system and there's an earthquake and the ground opens up and the entire, all the lines are destroyed, I have to reconstruct those lines. Now, one might argue, well, that's not maintenance, that's reconstruction.
Right.
So I can put that in there. I mean, I could suggest more specific language, and I'm happy to do it. My experience with the Commonwealth is, they like their templates and they don't change them much.
We got to protect ourselves. I mean, I guess in my mind, it's too good to be true. And so I'm looking for the hook. And this to me came up to be the hook. Like I'm thinking if I'm DEP and I'm giving out these credits, and everything falls apart. I don't have what I mean, I gotta hope that the point of doing this is to clean the water, right? And so the water's no longer being cleaned. So who's going to be responsible for fixing it?
Well, it's to stop the sediment from draining down.
PDE takes that responsibility in this document, but I see your point. I see your point.
Yeah, I mean, I just to simplify it, I think what we're trying to get to is a document that will enable us to write our check, get our credits, and then not think about this for 5 years.
Exactly.
Right? That's kind of where we're trying to get to. And if that's not the case, then the next level would be the risk of liability is so low, we should still pay the money and get our credits. Or option 3 is this is too risky. Let's just walk away and we'll deal with it on our own. So I mean, I think that's kind of the 3 options we're looking at. And so, go ahead.
And I would balance that off by, I don't think there's any obvious projects that we have. So it's not like we're sitting there comparing this to say, we have this tree planting project in such and such an area. At least I'm not aware of it. It's that we would be like doing, we don't have anything, right?
No, and I mean, we could, but I think the other point here is this is a very inexpensive way to handle the MS4 issue, right? Relatively speaking. And if we do something on our own, it could be significantly more expensive.
Right.
So what we're trying to balance is if we enter into this agreement, are we also opening ourselves up to a significantly more expensive project if we are doing stream bed restoration in wherever this is going to be put in, right? So that's kind of where I'm concerned.
Well, I also have questions on, I thought he said last month or a couple of weeks ago that they knew what the project was. That's what Don, that's what Guy was saying earlier, but he's trying to get monies from other townships to put into this fund, right? Is he going to build it bigger if more townships put their money in?
It's already paid for. He's trying to get some money back.
Okay.
So he's reducing the cost.
So that goes back to what Guy was saying. We need blanks filled in.
Yeah.
It's already, done. Why is it still blank? And especially if this is just for the first 5-year tranche, it's set.
I'm guessing this is just their boilerplate, and then maybe each township goes through the process we're going through, right?
Yeah.
Adjust.
Well, what I did was so that you understand where this document comes from. I compared this document to the one in Swatara Township and to the one in New Garden. This seems to be their template. Mm-hmm. And I had to do very little word processing, I'll just put it that way, to conform this document for use by your township. The language that the townships that I've seen who have done this is virtually identical to this, except for the dollar amounts and some of my home cooking, so to speak.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, and I think when you propose your home cooking, which you've already done, be interesting to see their response, because that may give us a sense of what's really going on. If they say, no, we can't do that because why? Not just because you can't mess with the template, but why? What is there about this clarity that would disturb them? Now that could be a learning experience right in of itself.
Yeah, and I'll have that conversation with them. So let me scroll down. I think, the only other thing that I did, because all of this language, it makes sense. I think that it's a lot of it is boilerplate. I do not think I did anything else but include our address right here, if to the township, to our township operations manager. And I think I correctly filled in our signature lines. I didn't fiddle with their signature lines. But it's got to be signed almost 4 times. So this will go through a series of reviews. But I think I can say that it's going to have to look like this. And David, you laid out three potential decisions, or 3 potential avenues. I think the second one is most likely, that there may be a little bit of risk associated with this, but it is insignificant enough that the township need not be overly concerned with it, which is sort of where I am heading, based on based upon what I've seen so far. Now, the proof will be when I have a conversation with him. But that's where I'm sort of drifting towards, Mr. Chairman. I think your second possibility, because I don't know that I can intelligently speak to a project within your municipal borders. I have no idea what you would do, how much it would cost, how many pounds would be removed. That to me, there's a lot of thought that needs to be put into that. Here, an awful lot of preliminary work has been done by PennDOT and by its cooperating municipalities. So this is what I have so far. It's not inconsistent with what we were told last month, but it's not squarely within the lines either. So that's what we have.
So let me turn to Jessica, because I think she's still with us. Jessica, you've been part of this, I know, working with Pete for our MS4 permit. What projects do we have? Do you see something that's out there that, I'm just thinking, can we compare what, say we have the situation where we get to the point where there is some risk, because and a cost that goes with that. And then do we have something to compare it to that's already been figured out for Franklin Township, or are we really starting at ground zero again? Because I know we have the permit application, so there must be something in there, right?
Yeah, so our situation for Franklin, for this PennDOT project, this is applicable to the township's PRP plan, which of course we were not granted the waiver that we requested. We had prepared a PRP plan, and then the township shifted gears. That PRP plan does have, I believe, and I'm going off the top of my head, I apologize, I don't have it in front of me. There's a few possible projects identified, and I think a few of them are in fact a stream restoration project, and then typically like a detention basin retrofit type scenario. I do not recall the exact locations, but it's certainly, it's just at the stage of there are only potential projects that have been identified, literally. No design has been done. Property owner coordination certainly has not been addressed. I think at least one of the projects may or may not be on township property, which of course makes it easier. But in this case, for lack of better words, we would be kind of starting from ground zero. So with that said, no, I can't really give you a specific project to compare this with, other than we've identified stream restorations to be the projects that Franklin would probably have to utilize. Of all the BMPs to implement for MS4 compliance, stream restorations can be the least fun, I'll say, to put it in very simple terms. The design for them, depending on the situation, can be rather extensive.
I think you bring up another good point. If we should decide to go with this PennDOT opportunity, we're not done, right? We still have to take care of the other part, right? The other part of our permit. So we're not done yet.
Yeah. So there's the TMDL side of the township, so to speak. It's kind of almost broken up by the north and the south. sides of the township. But I will tell you this, I have, after the meeting previously with Daryl Sinclair, I reached out to him, kind of probing a little bit, are there similar projects like this in our TMDL territory? He gave me some information about it. I'm still trying to digest it, but there is the potential that there's a similar type scenario in the realm of our TMDL territory. So, this could, I'm still pursuing more information on it. But yes, to answer your question directly, yes, as far as compliance measures, the township is still responsible for implementing them for the TMDL permit, which we don't actually have yet, but it will come to fruition eventually.
Yeah, I had the impression that the time frame for the MS4 or for the non-TMDL was quick, right? They wanted an answer, and but do we have more time for TMDL?
Well, yeah, for TMDL, because the permit hasn't actually been issued, that time clock hasn't officially started, so to speak. So, that 5-year clock will start when the permit's issued. Our intent on this end, as far as, there were some revisions that had to be made for the TMDL. Our intent is to submit that, before Thanksgiving, with the township's blessing, so to speak. And that can be a separate conversation per se, but even then, you still have to allow time for DEP to review it. And honestly, because it was 2 years before we got any reply on what we had submitted previously, who knows what that review timeline will look like.
Right. I see Guy's back. One last thing that I had is that in the case of a catastrophic event like an act of nature, like the 100-year storm Donna talked about, or an earthquake you talked about, does the force majeure language have any relief for that? Is there, in the force majeure language in that contract, does it say it goes back to any one particular party, or who's responsible?
No, because that force majeure clause is almost directly related, in my view, directly related to the purpose of the agreement. In other words, the ongoing and future maintenance wouldn't be an unanticipated event. It would be an event that you're actively attempting to get ahead of. So unlike the pandemic, where materials couldn't be found, so construction couldn't occur, that was outside of the purpose of the contract. That's a great question, but I don't have any concern that would somehow abrogate people's responsibility, or at least the rights that you acquire under the agreement. In the event of a catastrophic event, the underlying responsible party might get some additional time to do some additional things, but it would not undermine your protection under that contribution agreement.
Thank you. That answers my question.
So Don, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I'm very interested, and I think it's I think we got it.
Crystal clear.
Yeah. So Guy, I guess the next steps is you're going to, or you have already presented your revisions to Mr. St. Clair, and we're waiting on a response from him. Is that what we're doing?
Correct. And I did, in my email to Mr. St. Clair, I think I copied some of the various stakeholders. I know Jeff received a copy, Jessica as well. So hopefully he'll respond to, when the response comes, hopefully the response will come to all of us, but he's not the guy that sits at his desk and takes calls. So I have to track him down, not being critical. He's busy.
Okay. So, when we're on a little bit of a time clock apparently on this. I'm not sure what the length of time we have before we can make a decision. But hopefully November's meeting, everything should be lined up and we should be ready for a decision. I don't anticipate.
Excuse me, Dave.
Any more questions? Yes.
Dave, Ron Reagan.
Hey, Ron.
Can I, as township engineer for New London Township, I have been involved in this a little bit, I think. I got in on the tail end of Guy's presentation on the agreement. Is this the agreement from PennDOT for the Big Elk Creek project to buy into waste load reduction credits?
Yes.
Yes, but the agreement that I was discussing is more of a form than anything else. But yes, that's the what we would be buying into.
I've been working on that along with McCumbie and Associates in Penn Township for a couple months now. And we've run into a lot of opposition from the Big Elk Creek Watershed Association and from members of Stroud Water Research that they're questioning the load level that's being calculated by RES for that project in East Nottingham Township. So we've basically put our execution of that agreement, or whatever you're calling it, on hold until we get some more clarification on whether or not that project, as it's calculated, determining the amount of load reduction that they're going to get, is approved by DEP. And it's our understanding it has not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, add that to your list, Guy.
Because I don't believe that's, okay, so Ron, I believe you, believe me, I believe you, but I don't believe that's what I heard from PennDOT. I thought he said that DEP was already, this thing was signed, sealed and delivered. The plan was active. Maybe I might have heard it wrong. Yeah, it'd be nice to know. But that's a good point. Thank you, Ron.
Okay.
Just when you think.
All right, thanks, Ron. That was another twist.
Hey, Ron, who's the solicitor on that project for you at Penn?
Sam McMichael is our solicitor, and I believe he's
Oh,
also
well,
Penn's.
Sam is with Lamb Mackerel.
Yeah.
So I can reach out for Sam and get that sort of information. I'll give him a call. I'll give him a call tomorrow.
Okay.
Questioning.
He's out of our Oxford office.
Yeah, I know you guys had required him merged or something.
I just captured the fact that there's a question.
That's what I did.
Then he's concerned DEP doesn't have it.
All right, so do we have any other comments on the MS4 PennDOT agreement? I think, Guy, you know what you need to do.
Yep.
Never gets clearer.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So Jessica, you are our special guest tonight. You are doing all the heavy lifting.
Dave, if you don't mind, if I could offer a suggestion, sir.
Sure.
Ron's on right now, Reagan, and he needs to jump back in the New London Township meeting.
Okay, so
Would it be okay for him, please?
That's right. As we said, we'd reorganize the agenda until Ron Reagan can join us. So why don't we go to section G, which is for Ron Reagan to discuss the 2022 stormwater management projects update and the 2022 road paving project update.
You should have gotten a spreadsheet that gives you road by road, project by project, the status.
Yes.
On Church Hill, I'll just kind of walk through them quickly. All of the pipe and inlet drainage work has been completed. The road has been repaved. I met with Yardworks today to go over the timing, and they're looking at maybe the end of this week or Monday to get back out and do what I'm calling the shoulder restoration, which would be coming back, and where they had to dig up the edge of the road to put in the pipe, they're now coming back to blend that into the edge of the small curb that was installed by the paving machine. and then getting that seeded and matted. So we tried to get a little bit of grass to grow on it yet this fall. That road had a couple of areas, actually 3 areas that needed some leveling course to be put down. And then it was the entirety of the length that was redone this year was paved in a 1-pass paving operation. I have not been out there in any heavy rains to see how it's working, but some of the anecdotal comments I've heard from some folks sounds like it is working pretty well. As always, we're going to have some leaf issues, but I think with the type C inlets with the open throat in the back, that will take care of that. Parsons Road, we didn't have any drainage work on that one. It was strictly a paving operation. Unfortunately, part of the reason why we sought out to get Longs to do the paving was that they have a machine that will pave in 1 pass. Unfortunately, at the end of the day on paving Churchill Road, that paver broke down and it was out of commission the following day, which was the day that was scheduled to do Parsons Road. So they ended up doing that with a smaller paver in 2 passes. But I thought the seam looked pretty good. I didn't see any issues with the seam that they did there. Heather Hills, all 3 roads in the subdivision there, for the majority of the length of the road was paved with 1 pass. As you come in from, we're at the intersection of Highland and Heather Hills Drive, back to the end of the cul-de-sac on Highland, there were some residents there that expressed a concern about they needed to be able to get in and out and they couldn't be blocked from getting in and out. So we did do that stretch of road in 2 passes, but the rest of the subdivision was done with 1 pass. There were 2 areas on Heather Hills Drive where once we milled off the old wearing surface and got ready to put down the new wearing surface, we noticed that there was some base repair that needed to be done. So we had to do some minor sections. It was like 1 pass with a milling machine about 100 feet long in one area and about 10 feet long in another area where it had to be milled out and put base down and then put the wearing over top of that. There were no drainage projects in Heather Hills. On Mackey Court, we have presented and talked at the last couple of meetings on the drainage project that we're considering there. We're actually scheduled to meet with the neighbors on Friday to discuss that project because that project would involve putting in new storm sewer systems across private property. So we would need to secure permission to do that. If we get agreement from the neighbors to be able to do that, then we can move forward with the design of that project and have that likely be a project for the spring. Old Schoolhouse is a carryover from last year that we started looking at to reroute the stream near the intersection with 841. So we're still looking at that and regrading some of the embankments so that we don't have, essentially it's almost like a tunnel effect in a couple of stretches on Old Schoolhouse Road. We're looking at what I'm considering doing there is bringing that cartway up so that it would make it less of a change in elevation from the cartway up to the top of the bank. And then by doing so, we could make the bank flatter slope and it wouldn't appear and function quite as much as a channel or tunnel down through there. So that'll be something that will be finished up in the next month or so we can include it in any kind of bidding that we do for next year. Ways Run was a drainage project that we just basically finished up. We put in a new pipe underneath the Bennett's driveway down to and put in a new inlet to a cross pipe underneath Ways Run. And then we did some ditching upslope of that new pipe. This is going to be probably phase one of a two-phase project because I think we're going to need to come back and do some additional or some repaving there. The road is starting to crack up and we need to recontour the road to try to get the water to go where we want it to go and not go where it wants to go. So again, that might be a candidate for a project next year. Preakness, we had started, that's a project where we have a old dry well that's overflowing into a pipe. And the amount of flow and the rate at which it flows has caused erosion at the end of the pipe that drains that dry well. We're in the process of trying to get that channel downslope of that pipe stabilized. And we had pulled the crews off of that to get some of the other drainage work completed that needed to be done to do paving. So now we're looking at getting back on there and working on that. And again, that's something that's scheduled this week and next for the guys to get back out there. Forrest Gump is one where we think we have, and we've been monitoring a dry well, fairly large dry well. I think it's like 60 feet by 200, 250. I mean, it's a big, huge dry well underneath a private yard that we think is holding water much, much longer than it's supposed to. And what happens is that if you get storms back to back, the first storm fills it up and then it provides no stormwater management for the second storm. As a result of that, we're getting higher than normal or higher than designed rates of flow flowing off of that subdivision into a swale, causing erosion down through a stream, down through a woods, down to a crossing on Parson Road. So that's a project that we are monitoring that dry well, confirm that that's the cause. We want to make sure of that because we don't want to, that's going to be an expensive and I'm sure there's people who are not going to like having that big of an area dug up in their yard. There's an easement around it, but still it's, it's their yard.
So Ron, can I take you back?
Questions.
Yeah, can I take you back to Old Schoolhouse Road? So when you talked about the rerouting the stream and regrading the steep banks, is that happening now or it's something you plan to do? Or
well, we need to get a permit to reroute that stream, and we had started back early this summer we need to have it surveyed, and the surveyor told us they wouldn't survey it unless we could mow it because it's basically just a big briar patch. And so we sent Yardworks folks in there to mow it, and they got the skid steer stuck that has the mower on the front of it, and it's just so soft in there. So what we're thinking now is we'll get back in there this winter when the ground's frozen. Okay. And mow that so the surveyors can come in then soon after that mow it. I mean, they can survey in the wintertime, so we can get the survey done as soon as they can get it mowed this winter. Then we'll be looking at getting the permit to reroute that stream because what's happening is that stream is slowly meandering closer and closer to the edge of the cartway where it's not going to be very long before it's going to be eroding the edge of the cartway there. So we want to try to get that rerouted before we do any repaving of Schoolhouse Road because we don't want to do a new road and have it get washed out.
That makes sense. Thanks. That's good.
Okay.
I think we want to say what a great job, right? So fantastic.
I just wanted to thank Ron for all of his hard work and dedication. Our road program last year and this year is so much better because of him. So I really appreciate his hard work and just wanted to thank him this evening.
Yeah.
Well, you're certainly welcome. I just want to say, bear with me. I know it's not quite like working with a clean sheet of paper where we can do whatever we want. We're constantly kind of making a shift or a change out there because of what we're incurring in the field between utilities and rocks and trees and everything that we can't foresee that we're going to have an issue with, but we're running into and then working around them. So bear with me. We're doing the best we can.
Yeah, you're a real asset to us. Thank you, Ron.
So yeah, thank you, Ron. This is good news. I'm looking through this spreadsheet here. Our paving program is complete.
Yeah.
Yes, and this will be new news to Ron, but I'm going to try and get Parsons Road line striped. I'm working with London Britain to see if they want to piggyback on the back of that. And then do Churchill Road from the Wickerton Road intersection to Auburn Road. So I'm talking with Mark Sargent of Traffic Lines Incorporated. They've done our work in years past, and trying to get some pricing and see if we can fit it in this year.
So as we've talked about this in the past, about line striping, and we don't include that in our road program as a line item. You know, we kind of do it ad hoc. Is this because, you know, why is that? We should probably, you know, not every road needs line striping, but when we put our road package together, as part of that discussion, shouldn't it be also include, hey, we're gonna do the paving, we're gonna do the stormwater, and we're gonna do the line striping? I know it's three different entities who do all those things. Is that something that we should talk about right at the beginning of the program of what the striping program is going to be for 2020, whatever?
We certainly could, and just to rely or learn from Ron's experience, are we better off putting that in the road program or doing it separately?
Well, I don't mean it as part of the bid. I mean it as we don't talk about it during the road program discussions, right? So it's just something like, hey, we're going to do the stormwater, because stormwater is not part of the paving program either, but it's part of the discussion. You know, Old Schoolhouse is a good example of that, right? We're going to do that road, we're going to pave it, but we have to do stormwater. So why not say, hey, and we are going to stripe it?
Yeah, we can.
Right? You know, I don't know if that's, yeah.
It's certainly worthwhile making part of the conversation.
Just to make sure, you know, just so we have everything that we're going to do all in one spot.
Yep.
Is it in the same line item on the budget? Or I don't remember. I don't.
I'm going to have to rely on Melissa for that if she is still on, but I did ask her if she felt comfortable if we had the money to do that this year, and her reply was yes. Do you have any comments, Melissa?
I'm still on. It's not part of the line item of the budget. And we're pulling this out of other items from the budget.
So paving isn't an every year thing. Most of our roads probably not paving. Line striping isn't an every year thing. It's not something that many of our roads don't need striping. So it might be something we only do once every, you know, however.
Correct.
So
Correct.
do we need to have it as a separate line item, or it probably makes more sense to have it as a separate line item under the road program? Probably.
No, I don't think so. I think we can just add in a little bit more for the road maintenance.
Okay.
Repair.
That makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, you know, the intricacies of.
And then we can have a
Budgeting.
notation in there for that, for line striping.
Okay, sounds good.
David, if I may, it's something I would strongly encourage that we do, especially after we resurface a road.
Mhm.
Because that surface that used to be able to be comfortably navigated at 30 miles an hour, people now feel like they can run 50 miles an hour. And you go 50 miles an hour around a section of road that has a curve in it, you don't necessarily stay in your lane.
Right.
And some of those areas have kind of blind curves and stuff. So, and then as far as redoing it, after you pave it that first time, I would revisit it as far as an inspection every year to see if it look good for that year, or can I go another year, and then make that call there, but give it attention every year.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you do that.
I
now.
agree. Yep, totally agree.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ron. Excellent work.
Okay, all right. Good night, all.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
All right, where are we? Back to Jessica.
Yeah.
So next up, we're going to talk about the 1723 Vineyard. They have put forward a stormwater waiver request.
I know earlier this evening, Mrs. Cody was here and she had left, so I don't know whether she's on tonight or not.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm here on Zoom.
Okay. So Mrs. Cody is here this evening. I don't know if you would like to describe the project, talk about it first, and then let our engineer, Jessica Adams, talk, whatever your comfort level is.
Sure. I thought Ken Crossan was going to be on here to talk about it, so I wasn't prepared. We're just looking to add a barn structure to our property, and we're just asking to add it into the already proposed stormwater plan that we did with our first building, the winery. But I apologize, I wasn't prepared because I thought Ken was going to be on here. So
Yep, Ken's not here this evening.
okay.
I mean, I think part of the issue, Sarah, is that it goes above that 15,000 cutoff, right? That's maybe Jessica will speak to that. And that's kind of why you're here, because you need a waiver for that.
Yeah, it goes above it. I believe by a couple thousand feet.
Correct. Do you want to talk about it, Jessica, and just give a brief overview and what LTL's thoughts are, please?
Yep, yeah. So that is correct. Ultimately, you know, an ag building structure is proposed. Bear with me, I am checking my notes. I apologize.
You can share your screen, or I can try and bring up the plan. It's whatever you like, Jessica.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably good. I think just explaining, this is pretty straightforward, I think.
Okay.
But basically, you know, there's a proposed building and a concrete pad next to it. And basically the impervious area totals approximately 17,300 square feet. The threshold for allowing a modified you know, / simplified approach stormwater management plan for ag structure is 15,000 square feet. So my understanding is the waiver is the waiver request is to allow the simplified approach for the ag building, even though that 15,000 square foot threshold is exceeded by approximately 2,000 square feet. My understanding is that, you know, the stormwater management is still proposed. It just looking to not have to do a fully plan and just keep it at that modified, you know, / simplified plan. It is also my understanding that this is on the vineyard property. You know, it's on a large property. It's not, you know, a small 1 acre lot that's, you know, right next to a very close adjacent neighbor type of thing. So I know Pete had really no objections, you know, to the waiver request. It's just wanted to make it clear that yes, it's our understanding that the stormwater management, you know, would still be proposed and is required, but just in a limited, simplified approach.
And the big thing is, Jessica, this would not adversely affect any of the neighbors if the simplified approach is done, correct? Or any roads?
Yes, correct. And just understand, I'll just add one note, it's that no design has been submitted yet. So this is, you know, that obviously we would look at that once it is submitted and, you know, work with the applicant to make sure that, you know, compliance is met.
So can you clarify for me, you know, so right now it's 17,000 square feet. The minimum or maximum is 15,000 square feet. So in relation to the project size, 2,000 square feet doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. It's a pretty large area, 2,000 square feet. Why do you feel like this is appropriate to grant the waiver? Because, you know, it's, I know relative to, you know, relative itself, 2,000 square feet is not a large portion, but it is that's a pretty big footprint. So just to clarify, you know, why should we grant the waiver?
I think that just for the purpose of the building, again, is for an ag use. It's my understanding that this parcel involved, I'm going to say, call it an exception parcel. I forget how it's labeled on the plan, where a house was built, and that was a fully engineered stormwater design. This is, I'll say, sort of separate, but on the property that holds all the vineyards themselves. And at this point, there wouldn't, for the purpose and the use and the location, the size of the property, it just makes sense that doing a fully engineered plan would kind of be overly extensive.
Okay.
But with the understanding too, I know Pete had commented on this, that clearly want to kind of put a condition on there maybe that says anything above and beyond this, additional impervious after this point, or initial impervious area that might be proposed after this point, then we're certainly, we move into that fully engineered approach. Moving.
Yeah, I guess, that would be, another question is, that's a good point, is, so they want to put in the 17,000 square foot. We agree.
Yes,
The simplified
that's
approach.
the total. They have something there already. This would be in addition to it. So they already have some stuff there now.
Yeah.
So, but 17 is the total.
So 17 will be the total. We're going to go with the simplified approach for the stormwater. If they do anything else on the property, that is now means they need a full engineered plan or anything specific to that structure.
No, anything additional on the property after this
Okay.
point.
Okay.
A fully engineered plan. And I'm trying to find, I apologize, I'm scrolling through the binder. I'm not sure if there is an electronic version of this plan in there. And I don't have an electronic version.
Yeah, it should be. So that was the only clarity. That's just I just want to make sure that we capture that.
Yeah, that would certainly be a good thing to capture.
Yeah, I'm seeing if I can find it in here.
I think you made a really good point, Jessica, that they have to do stormwater. They're going to do stormwater. It's just a matter of whether they have to do a full engineering plan and can do the modified. So it's not like it's a get out of jail. You don't have to do anything. That's not what we're doing here. It's just be allowed to use a simplified approach to make their calculations or whatever they need to do. Or
correct.
Okay. Jim, any questions?
No, I think taking into consideration the size of the property and, this is not a problem for me.
Don, do you have any questions?
She keeps getting bumped. She just
okay.
texted me, so she probably is not going to be on for the
Okay.
rest of the evening.
Okay. All right, we've got a quorum. All right. So do we have any other discussion that we want to have? Okay, we're good.
Jessica, if the chairman reads a motion here or a proposed motion, just listen carefully to make sure we don't need to add something else. I wrote this last week, so I tried my best at the time.
Okay.
You gotta add something.
Do we have to add something? Let me see. All right, let's just read it and see if we have to add anything to it. All right, proposed motion. So I make a motion that the board approve the waiver request as reviewed and approved by engineer Pete Eisenbrown from section 19106.5.b of the Franklin Township Stormwater Management Ordinance to allow the use of the modified requirements for agricultural structures, specifically for the design of the stormwater management facilities for the proposed building and concrete pad for this size project, considering the agricultural use and the size of the property. That's kind of awkwardly worded, but I think should we call out specifically the size of the project? Or is this the wording just seems kind of vague?
you say the large size of the project. I mean, I don't know what you want to.
I mean, maybe you want to call out you might want to add that 15,000 square foot threshold is exceeded, which means your size of the project, meaning the proposed impervious area, is 17,336 square feet.
Okay, so meaning size
Which
17,000 square feet, which exceeds the 15,000 square feet as outlined in the ordinance.
yeah.
And did we want to add anything for future, future would require?
Oh, right, that's true, okay. Which exceeds the 15,000 in ordinance. And then the second piece would be, any future impervious surfaces would require a full engineered plan.
Correct.
Okay.
For the addition of any future.
Yeah, any addition of impervious surfaces would require a full engineered plan. Okay, let's try this. Now I have to read my own chicken scratch. I make a motion that the board approve the waiver request as reviewed and approved by our engineer, Pete Eisenbrown, from section 19-106.5.b of the Franklin Township Stormwater Management Ordinance to allow the use of the modified requirements for agricultural structures, specifically for the design of the stormwater management facilities for the proposed building and concrete pad for this sized project, meaning the size of the project is currently 17,000 square feet, which exceeds the 15,000 square foot threshold. Any additional installation of impervious surface would require a full engineered plan.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be picky, but the project's not 17,000.
17,336.
But it's not,
Okay.
that's the full, like, there's old stuff there. And like, that's the total. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the project.
Total, so this project would increase the amount of squared.
Or result in the total.
Increase the existing.
I would just say result in the
Okay.
total.
Okay.
Okay.
I know, I'm sorry to be a pain, but
Okay, so it's increasing the size of the total amount of impervious surface to 17,000 square feet.
no, it results in a total of 17,366. So the project results in a total of 17,366 square feet of impervious surface.
Yeah, excuse me, Donna, the proposed building, the proposed structure and concrete pad, which is the project, is total 17,336 square feet.
So there's no existing that they're talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh, I said, then that's my mistake. I thought there was already something there.
Well, there's a house there.
Right.
That's
So I
separate.
thought we were at, I thought we had 14,000. I thought there was a building and a parking, and that was 14,820. And then we were adding that to 2,546. And that's how we got to 17,366.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
You may.
Thank you. I did not look at section 19-106.5B of your stormwater management ordinance, but what exactly does that require? And is the waiver simply a request that that particular ordinance section is being waived? I guess I don't want to oversimplify it, but what does 106.5B of the ordinance require?
I'm working on it.
Okay, because it would seem to me, in my experience with respect to waivers, it shouldn't, the waiver shouldn't be this difficult to craft. You're either granting the waiver as Peter suggested, or you're doing something different.
Yeah, why does all the detail have to be in there? Just grant the waiver, but add that language that.
Any additional?
And then the other thing is, I think Donna's question, needs to be answered too. Is it additional, like the,
So
Is
the way I read the book, in 2018, there was a 2,800 square foot building and a 12,020 square foot parking, which is a total of 14,820 square feet. And then that there was a request to build a 2,146 square foot building and a 400 square foot concrete pad, which is 2,546 square feet. And you add that to the old stuff, and that's where you get the 17,366.
This would be new 70,000.
No, my understanding is the 14,800 is already there, that you want to add the 2,546 to it. And that's what took them over.
Yeah.
is that,
That,
I
that's
mean,
my.
Miss Cody's on the line. She's-
Yes, that is correct. Donna is correct. We already have the existing structure. We're just adding another structure. But the 14,000 square feet is already a structure we have here.
Okay, so the 1480. Okay, so that's different. So you're only adding 2,546 square feet.
But it takes them over.
So to answer our question, you're only adding the 2,546 square feet.
That's
correct.
Okay, so that changes the color.
I apologize. That was, I misled everyone.
Right, that's okay. We got there. Okay, so we've got so one question, I guess, as I look at Donna's numbers here, when we talk about impervious surface, we talk about total impervious surface on the entire property.
Yes.
Has a full engineering plan ever been done? Didn't have to be because we never got to 15,000. Okay.
Excellent question. I think that clarifies things a lot, truthfully, Dave. Just the way you phrased that. So yeah, so for the ag buildings, once you get to that over 15,000 square feet, that's when you have to go to fully engineer.
Okay.
Because you're just approaching that or getting to that point for the first time, so to speak. Hence the waiver of, you know what, it's just an additional.
Okay, so that makes more sense. So maybe I can just add the wording that just says adding an additional 2,546 square feet of impervious space, which will add 2,546 to an existing structure, bringing it over the 15,000 square foot minimum. All right. Okay, let's try one more time.
Try again.
You've done a great job.
Did you write the numbers down?
I'm gonna have to look at Donna's notes. All right, so I make a motion that the board approve the waiver request as reviewed and approved by our engineer Pete Eisenbrown from section 19-106.5.b of the Franklin Township Stormwater Management Ordinance to allow the use of the modified requirements for agricultural structures specifically for the design of the stormwater management facilities for the proposed building and concrete pad for this project, which will add an additional 2,546 square feet of impervious surface to the already existing 14,820 square feet of impervious surface, totaling a total of 17,366 square feet of impervious surface, which would then exceed the 15,000 square foot threshold as outlined in the ordinance. Considering the agriculture and the agricultural use and size of the property, it is recommended that Pete made the recommendation to approve the waiver. Okay, may I have a second?
I'm happy to second it.
Okay.
Did we add the
Any,
language for the future?
I think that'll be captured because we're already over. So any further discussion? Did we add the, so I think the point is so right now the property is completely over the 15,000 square foot threshold. We're allowing for that additional 2,000 square feet and any other impervious surface that goes in beyond that is going to require the full engineering plan. Okay, so I don't know if it looks like Don is not on with us. Any further discussion before we move on to the vote? Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, so motion carries 3-0. All right, thank you very much.
Good job, Dave.
We got there. We got there. Thank you for the help. Okay, so Dawn has not been able to join us, so we're going to introduce Jessica Adams again tonight to discuss the 201 Parson Road steep slope waiver request. This is regarding the Shields property.
Jessica, I do see Colin on from Hillcrest for this project. So I don't know whether he wants to give a brief overview or not. I'll leave that up to him and you.
Sure, that makes no difference to me. If Colin wants to present it, go right ahead. If it prefers me to do it, that's okay too.
Yeah, if you have something written up, I'm happy to just listen and answer any questions that might come up, but it seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, I would agree, Colin, honestly. So this project proposes a new barn and a portion of a new driveway extension onto the existing driveway of the property. The existing slopes of this property are steep already at a 4-to-1 slope, is my understanding. The waiver request is to allow final grading to be at a 3-to-1 slope for the purposes, number one, to try and, as we call it, you'd be chasing grade kind of forever, so to speak, not forever, but it would take a while to be able to tie the grade back in. You'd create more disturbance than is really necessary just to keep that 4-to-1 slope. Bear with me here. And I am referencing, I think Colin's waiver request letter specifically. So again, you'd minimize the disturbance if you can go to a 3-to-1 slope. They're proposing that they would certainly reinforce those steeper slopes. And there is a swale that goes behind this proposed barn, and we do allow 3-to-1 slopes and swales as well. So it's not something that's unheard of in the township. I just think it really limits the disturbance on their property. So, again, Pete and I have no objection to that. It makes sense to be consistent with the existing lay of the land and to minimize the disturbance on the property. Did I miss anything, Colin, from your side of it? Since it's your project.
No, that would be it. And the only question the board might ask is, if the variance was not granted, the end result would be disturbance of more natural resources.
All right, and I would agree with that.
Can you explain that to me? Like, why would the slope impact the natural resources? Well, what is it about this project that requires the slope be at a 3-to-1 versus a 4-to-1?
The length of the driveway.
So you'd have to make the driveway longer. Is that that's the? So you don't understand the question.
Yeah.
So the driveway will have to be too long or longer if we can't adjust the slope. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer to that. If you required the less slope, you would have to extend the driveway, not so much, but just the grading of the land around the back of this barn. So imagine you have a sloped ground. You're going to cut into it, like this to fit a square building. If you require a lesser slope, you're going to have to cut back farther into it to catch the existing grade or meet up with it and tie back into it. Allowing that little steeper slope behind lessens the amount of that excavation and disturbance. This is a large property. I think it looks like this area is wooded. So, as far as conserving those natural resources, that's what you'd be conserving.
And the primary reason we have this 4-to-1 is for erosion. Oh,
Yeah, that's always one of the main things, you know, the less steep a slope is, the less erosion potential that you have. A 3-to-1 slope, though, is not uncommon. That's certainly a manageable, maintainable slope. 4-to-1 is definitely a more conservative design, but 3-to-1 is certainly is a fairly standard industry design.
okay.
You know, you know, I'll speak for Colin on this, and maybe the applicant, you know, keeping in mind too, this is I'm going to say a self-contained project in that the applicant is the one who's going to be maintaining this. You know, it's on their own property. It's not like they're proposing something else that they're selling off to someone who's going to have to maintain it. So it is their responsibility. A 3-to-1 slope is a mowable, manageable.
And there's no one down the slope that's gonna, it's all the applicant's property, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Someone else read this one.
It's a long one.
It's a long one. Yeah, but I read the other one like 4 times.
I'm gonna make you make it up.
I'm going to discuss what's here. Okay, so I make a motion that the board approve the waiver request as reviewed and approved by engineer Pete Eisenbrown from Township Code, Chapter 19, Section 314.7, which states cut fill slope shall not be steeper than 4-to-1. As a significant portion of our limit of disturbance in its existing condition is approximately a 4-to-1 slope, we are requesting a waiver to allow us to grade the proposed slope at 3-to-1. And we're doing this to minimize the limit of disturbance as the project is located along the woodland edge. With the existing grade being approximately 4-to-1, if we propose a 4-to-1 slope, catching the existing grade would amount to a potentially infinite LOD. By utilizing a 3-to-1 slope, we can catch existing grade within a reasonable area. C, all our proposed slopes will be reinforced with erosion control blanket. And D, the slope above the proposed building is the side slope for a swale, which is allowed to have a 3-to-1 side slope per Township Code, Chapter 19, Section 313.S.F.
313.7.
What did I say? I'm getting more.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Section 313.S.F.
7.
What is my problem? What am I doing? It's section 313.7. What happened to say S?
S. It's starting to happen.
Should I start the whole thing over again?
No, you're good.
Section 313.7.F.
Yes.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? I mean, this seems reasonable to me. I don't have any.
All right.
All right. So, anybody else? Okay. So all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The motion carries 3-0.
All right. Thank you very much, Jessica. You did a lot of heavy lifting tonight, so I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, so the next topic is not going to be a very long discussion. This is just something that we talked about. Jeff and I were talking about it. We've been using, Jeff had a cool idea to get some, drone operators to take some pictures. And so we just wanted to float the idea of maybe having a yearly photo contest for Franklin Township. Local Franklin Township residents submit their photos and we come up with some series of, gift cards or prizes that we can post on the website and not really any motions, just thought it might be something that if the board would think would be a good idea.
Is it natural landscape? Like, what is it? Anything you want?
Well, I think we were just going to open it up to the board as we talk about it and organize it. It would just be whatever people want to take a photo of. Natural landscapes is usually a good something. Franklin Township.
Kind of like, I think they do that in the Landenberg Today magazine.
Yeah.
They do something.
Yeah, just something like that.
Yeah. I like it.
Okay. No motion required. Yeah. And then last but not least, We've got the,
I have a long, sorry, guys, I have a long, no, I don't have a long update. This is gonna be very fast. So,
okay.
very quickly, I had sent out, we've talked about the, auditor, RFP before. I sent out 37 requests, 15 bounced back with no, the wrong email addresses in the Pennsylvania AICPA thing. And then we had 17 no replies. We had 3 declines. We had 2 affirmed and 1 incumbent. So we're down to 3 potentials.
You
for
don't
the
mind
RFP.
so-
It was pretty
Yeah.
simple. Now, so I've talked to all 3 and all 3 CPA firms, and I'm going to send out an RFP to them by the end of the week, a very, very simplistic one with some questions on it. And then by the workshop meeting, I'll have some notes probably for us to look at.
Awesome.
And then,
Great.
and then I would assume by either in an executive session or maybe even by the workshop meeting, I could set up 15-minute separate presentations for each one, for all 3.
Does the company that Nancy had come talk to us before, are they part of the ones that?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Okay,
good.
good.
So it's, I don't mind. I guess I shouldn't.
Not yet, maybe.
No, I shouldn't say it who it is.
Okay, that's
It
good.
doesn't matter.
It's very good. It's amazing how it turned out.
Yeah. Well, it worked well. And I did talk to a few of them that contemplated it, but then decided not to for various reasons. We can talk about that in exec.
Okay. All right.
That's it.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So that brings us to our public comment. Yep. So the public comment can include comments on anything attendees might want to share. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer of the township. Do we have any public comments? I think we've lost all of our public. This was a good one too. They should have stuck around to the end and would have found out about the photo contest.
Important work. We'll get it on.
All right. Well, without hearing any further public comment, I propose a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 9:43 p.m.
Second.
All right. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
So now the important thing, did the Phillies lose or win?
They
What happened?
lost.
They lost?
They
So you
lost.
guys, you kept on top of it?
Yeah.
Not bad. It was
8 to 5.
8 to 5.
8 to 5. Yeah. Yeah. Not a good night for the Phils.
One bad inning.
One bad inning did us in.
Oh, we'll get
All right, folks.
Good meeting.